All right, so today we're diving into something pretty interesting. How can a service help traditional Vietnamese businesses?
hmm
You know, those places we all love, like the local faux shop, get online and get seen without spending any money on ads.
It's a huge challenge, right? But a really important one, and that's where BBF comes in. They want to make going digital easy with like a one-click solution.
Yeah, one click. That sounds pretty tempting, especially for businesses that aren't, tech experts.
Right, exactly. And that's really BBF's target audience. They're going after those traditional businesses that are used to mostly walk-in customers and word-of-mouth marketing.
Makes sense. So we've been looking at BBF's growth plan for this deep dive. And what stood out to you so far?
Well, I think the biggest thing is their understanding of their audience. Like you said, these aren't businesses that grew up with the internet, so the whole online world can seem pretty daunting.
Daunting and maybe even unnecessary, right? Some might think, hey, my business has been doing fine for years. Why change now?
That's true. But the thing is, customer expectations are changing. People are so used to finding information online, checking hours, placing orders before they even leave the house.
Yeah, going digital isn't just about keeping up. It's about tapping into a much wider customer base. And honestly, it makes businesses more resilient in the long run.
Absolutely.
Huh.
But we can't ignore the hurdles these businesses face. Getting online can be tough.
Tough in what ways?
Well, maybe they don't have the digital skills or their systems are outdated. And then there's the operational side, learning how to manage online orders, handle payments, that kind of thing.
And let's not forget the trust factor, right? Building that online reputation and adapting to a new way of interacting with customers.
All really important points.
Mhm.
And BBF seems to get that their whole one-click promise is about taking away that complexity, making it as painless as possible.
All right, so let's get into the specifics. How are they planning to get noticed online without spending a dime on ads?
Well, it all starts with something called keyword research and SEO. Have you heard of
Mhm.
that?
Yeah, SEO is about making your website show up high in search results, right? But keyword research, what's that all about?
Basically, it's figuring out what words and phrases people actually use when they're searching online. So for BBF, it's not just about business solutions. It's about understanding how these traditional business owners think.
Give me an example.
Sure, instead of searching for e-commerce platform, they might search for how to sell my products online easily or how to get my shop on the internet, in Vietnamese, of course.
So it's about getting into their heads, speaking their language.
Exactly. They need to identify those core service keywords, but also think about informational keywords like how can my traditional store sell online?
Hmm.
And even those pain point keywords, what are the difficulties of online selling?
Okay, that makes sense. So once they have those keywords, what do they do with them?
That's where SEO comes in. It's about strategically using those keywords in their website, content, their blog posts, even their social media to make sure they show up when someone searches for those terms.
So it's not just about having a website, it's about making sure it's optimized for the right search terms.
Right. And that means creating content that actually answers the questions those business owners are asking. Maybe something like 5 common mistakes when taking your Vietnamese business online, or the ultimate guide to online sales for traditional businesses.
Practical stuff that helps them overcome those hurdles we talked about.
Exactly. And another big part of SEO is getting backlinks, which are basically links from other reputable websites pointing to your site.
So like a virtual word of mouth recommendation?
Kinda, yeah. It shows Google that your website is trustworthy and worth ranking higher.
Got it. So we've got keywords, SEO, but they can't just rely on Google, right? Where else are they looking to connect with these businesses?
Well, social media is huge in Vietnam. Facebook is a must for reach, and LinkedIn can be valuable for that more professional audience.
But isn't Facebook getting a little crowded these days? Are people even paying attention?
It's still a major player, but you're right, there's a lot of noise. So BBF's also focusing on a platform called Zalo.
Zalo, I'm not familiar with that one.
It's the dominant messaging app in Vietnam, and their official accounts feature is really powerful for reaching people directly and sharing content.
Interesting. So it's like having a direct line to your target audience.
Exactly. And beyond social media, they're also looking at online business directories that are popular in Vietnam. The sites where people go to find local services.
Makes sense. So it's about being where your customers are, both on search engines and those other platforms.
Absolutely. And one thing they're really emphasizing is the importance of visual content, videos, images, infographics.
Why is that so important for this audience?
Well, think about it. Many of these business owners are used to face-to-face interactions. So seeing a friendly face in a video or a clear visual explaining a concept can really help them connect and understand.
Okay, so we've got the platforms, we've got the keywords, the SEO. Now, how do they actually use all of this to drive traffic to their site for free.
It all comes down to content marketing, creating valuable content that addresses those pain points and answers those questions we talked about earlier.
So those blog posts and guides we mentioned are really key.
Exactly. And it's not just about putting any old content out there. It needs to be practical, actionable advice written in Vietnamese and tailored specifically to their target audience.
Give me some examples. What kind of content are we talking about?
Well, they could create blog posts like 5 mistakes to avoid when setting up your online store, or the ultimate guide to online sales with BBF.
Okay, so very specific and problem solving.
Right. And they could offer downloadable resources like checklists or templates to help businesses get started.
That's a great idea. Something tangible they can use.
Exactly. And they need to be active on social media, sharing their content, engaging with users, answering questions, and building that community.
So it's not just about broadcasting, it's about interaction.
Right. And they should definitely leverage that Zalo official account to share updates, tips, and even run polls or contests to keep people engaged.
And what about those online directories we talked about?
Listing their business on those directories is crucial. It increases their visibility, and they should encourage customers to leave reviews, which builds credibility.
Reviews are like gold online, right?
Absolutely. There's social proof that your business is legitimate and trustworthy.
So we've covered a lot of ground here, but how does BBF measure the success of all these efforts without relying on paid advertising data?
That's where free analytics tools come in, things like Google Analytics and Google Search Console.
I've heard of Google Analytics. What does it do exactly?
It gives you a ton of data about your website traffic,
Mm-hmm.
how many people are visiting, where they're coming from, what pages they're looking at, how long they're staying.
So it's like having a behind-the-scenes look at how people are interacting with your website.
Exactly. And Google Search Console focuses more on your website's performance in Google search results. What keywords are driving traffic, if there are any technical issues that need fixing.
So it helps you understand how Google sees your site.
Right. And they can use these tools to track key metrics like website visits, especially those coming from organic search.
Meaning people who found them through a Google search.
Exactly. And they can track things like bounce rate, which tells them how many people are leaving the site quickly.
So a high bounce rate might mean the content isn't engaging enough.
Exactly. And they can see how long people are spending on each page, which is a good indicator of how interesting the content is.
And of course, they can track their rankings for those important keywords we talked about.
Right, seeing how they're moving up in the search results.
And all of this is free.
Yep, completely free, which
Yeah.
is amazing. These tools give them a ton of insight without having to spend any money.
It's really impressive how BBF is approaching this challenge, focusing on organic growth and really understanding their target audience.
It just goes to show that with a bit of creativity and a data-driven mindset, you can achieve a lot without breaking the bank.
Absolutely. Well, this has been a fascinating deep dive. Thanks for breaking it all down.
No problem. It's been great chatting about this. And honestly, it makes you think, what other creative strategies could BBF use to connect with these traditional Vietnamese businesses, considering the unique online landscape there?
That's a great question. Something for everyone to ponder. Well, thanks for listening to the deep dive, and see you next time.